DJ Event Planner will change the way you manage and run your business. Streamline all of your procedures and software into one easy-to-manage system. DJ Event Planner, the ultimate online planning tool.
You're tuned in to DJNTV Live with your host, Brian S. Red.
Now, we're here. It's
Now.
us. We made it.
Hi, everybody.
Thank you for joining us.
Me or them?
Everyone. You know, you
thank
and I
you,
are here
John.
every week. It's everyone else who has to take time out of their busy schedules and come to hang with us. I mean, not that this isn't obviously a commitment for us too, but we get all the extra cookies at the end of the show that they don't get.
Right.
So I mean,
So thank you for coming, everyone.
there's that. Yes.
Thank you.
So tonight, we're going to cover. Tonight's going to be a kind of a smattering of a lot of different angles and aspects of it. I wanted to talk a little bit about some issues DJs are having, because this is the time of year. I don't know, Brian, if you've been able to follow, because you kind of slowed down a little bit with the ankle and such, which people have already been asking about how the ankle is. So we'll start there and give them an update.
I'll live. I'm gonna. Yeah. It's one of those things that just kind of takes you out when you've got other issues too. If that's all I had going on, I'd probably be okay. But with that and everything else, it's limiting. So I've been working on a video on and off all day. So I'm trying to get a video out for you later on tonight. So, I re-injured it the other day, just twisted it and kind of set myself back, but I'm going to be all right. It's going to take a long time. So
It's just, and this is something that I probably didn't appreciate until last year, is that when a person has some kind of and I'm going to call it a disability, like last year with the vision, it takes 10 times the amount of time to do something. And I'm sure with you're trying to move things around, and with an ankle that is bad, with the additional things, that gets to be that's really a slow process to be able to shoot the videos and do the things you want to do that way.
I've taken the 10 times down to about 4 times, which is good. I'm getting better, but the ankle was like, you know what? Enough is enough is enough. This is just me. I hate to give up, but at the same time, I don't want to make myself worse. I want to get back up and around as quickly as possible to the best of my ability. So I kind of am taking it easy, but I'm going to be all right. I'm getting back to work slowly. I'm taking my time doing it. But tomorrow I'm in Chicago. I go to Chicago. I'm doing a ADJA presentation to the Chicago ADJA chapter. So, but that's not a big deal. There's no lifting in that, I hope. If I get there and they make me lift stuff, I'm really going to be angry. I was told all I had to do was talk, which I can do.
So,
and I actually have notes.
Yes. So. What are you going to be covering at the meeting tomorrow?
I've got a presentation that I gave at the CDJ show in Toronto, Canada this year that I'm going to do in Chicago. And it's called Prepping for the Gig. And what I do is I talk about what I used to have to do to prep for a gig back in the old days versus what I have to do now. And I also talk about things like cost analysis, because prepping for the gig is also prepping for the meeting. Sure. One thing you have to prep for with the meeting is the price tag. So when they ask how much, how do you handle it? That's all part of prepping for the gig. So it's in my presentation that I'll be presenting tomorrow, and I hope it's well received. And if it's not, the good people of the ADJA Chicago chapter can ask me questions on something else, just throw hand grenades at me like you're going to tonight, because I have no idea what we're talking about tonight.
Yeah, I would think it will go over. I had heard from some of the folks who were at the Canadian show where you presented that. They really enjoyed that.
It went over very well in Canada. We'll see how it translates in Chicago.
That's true, because you won't be able to make any, Mountie jokes. You won't be able to
Right,
use.
you know, and I got to take out all my Bob and Doug McKenzie jokes.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
I know nothing about the Great White North or anything.
nothing about the Great White North or Geddy Lee or,
Wow.
you know, even was he, oh God, what's wrong with me? The big guy, the guy right now who's Drake. Drake is Canada too.
Yep,
so
yep.
They're very proud of Drake in Toronto. But yeah, so that's tomorrow at 7 o'clock, and I believe it's open to anybody who wants to come. It's at the BMO Harris building in Naperville.
I think if they go to Facebook and do a search for Chicago ADJA chapter, yeah.
You want to come, you can come. If you're in the neighborhood, come on down.
Yeah, if they go to Facebook and just search Chicago ADJ chapter, it has the page there, and it has the link. So a person can go and check that out, and there's a link to reserve a spot there. So actually, you know what I'll do is I'm just going to put that in the chat room so people can see.
Just in case.
Just in case.
Pick up a half a person, and they want to come. So
Case,
anyway, that's tomorrow.
So yeah, that'll be fun.
And I'm gigging on Saturday. So I mean, it's one of those things where you have to prepare yourself to do the things that you must do.
Mm-hmm.
So unfortunately, some of the things that I should be doing are getting put on the back burner. But I'm working on remedying that as well.
Yeah. And then in 2 weeks, the snow will fly, so then you have to be ready for that. So it's all the stuff coming up together. Well, maybe not quite. Maybe that was where Ben's at. So.
Yeah, no.
So what I wanted to talk a little bit about, Brian, is that on the different chat boards and things, we're getting to that time of year when a lot of DJs are starting to slow down. And it seems that this is the time of year when the complaints start. We have this rash of the fall where they start whining about this or that or the other thing, all these little things that are issues in their lives. And then we get into the spring, and there's another a rash of these things. And I keep thinking to myself, how many of these different things that DJs are having are so hung up on this time of year are creating or leading or building this image issue that DJs have. Because when you talk to so many people out there about DJs, I mean, I know Mark Farrell at one time, we were talking about him earlier off air. Mark Farrell at one time wanted it to, when people would look at DJs as a respected profession. And there's still, I mean, there's times where I'm talking with people and they're like, "Oh, what do you do?" And it's like, "God, I'm a DJ." You know, it isn't like a I'm a doctor and I save people type of thing. It's like,
Right.
I'm a DJ and I play music and go.
Well, I think if you say that you're I don't know, this used to be the case. You'd say, "I'm a DJ." Then the first question was, what station?
Yeah.
Like, well, actually, I'm not that kind of DJ. You know, I do mobile. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, precisely. I mean, that image that we've gotten out there. I mean, at times you figure the hierarchy. You've got your used car salesman, you've got your door-to-door insurance salesman, and then way down here somewhere is the mobile entertainer, and it's like, oh yeah, I'm sorry, I'm a DJ.
Mm-hmm.
And where did that come from? I mean, are there movies out there that really started that, or was it just the unfortunate situation that when some people were starting this, is that there was just really poor quality entertainers that were starting the DJ trend, or was it, did bands? I don't know. How did this begin?
I think let me just say, I think a lot of it may possibly stem from just what we're playing at these events. Sometimes they associate us with the songs, so maybe they associate us with the YMCA, or maybe they associate us with the Electric Slide, or maybe they associate us with the Chicken Dance or old time rock and roll, or whatever the case might be. Just the wedding they went to, and they heard this thing, and they saw this guy. What do they say? One bad apple spoils the bunch. So if you've got somebody out there who looks ridiculous on stage, the sound isn't right. They keep saying things like "ladies and gentlemen" at this time over and over again. Perhaps that kind of goes into people's minds as to what a mobile DJ is.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's more the norm than the exception, which I don't know that it is, but if it is, yeah, I can totally see how the general public can look at us like, ew, you know. It was funny because I was thinking to myself, I wasn't talking to anybody. I was thinking to myself just yesterday for some reason. I was thinking about because I was in the car business.
Yeah.
I sold used cars, and the weird thing about the used car business is that you meet a lot of people either on their way up or on their way down. Now, the reason I was thinking about it, and this may or may not have anything to do with what we're talking about, there was a gentleman. This is why I was thinking about it. I remember now. There was a guy, and I'm playing this memory game with myself. I'm trying to remember his name, and I cannot do it for anything. But this guy was a talk show host on TV in the 70s.
Okay.
And he did a lot of political interviews. I think he interviewed like 5 different presidents on his show. Either presidents or ex-presidents.
Okay.
Like all the way up to Carter. He 4, maybe it was 4. I don't know, but it was several. And he had pictures of himself with these presidents and vice presidents. And he had a stroke in, I think, the early 80s. And it affected his speech to the point where he was unable to still be a talk show host. Or at least back in the early 80s, that was the perception.
Sure.
You could no longer do it. I don't think that would be it today. I think I don't know, if anybody out there who's high profile had a stroke and there was a bit of a speech impediment, I think the public would love it if they stayed on the air, even with it. I think that would be the perception of it today. But back then, yeah, I'm out. So he ended up in the car business. And he had a line that was, when he'd sit people down, because he kind of talked like this. So he would sit people down and he would say, listen, I just want to tell you that it may sound like I've been drinking, but I haven't been drinking. I don't drink. I had a stroke. And they all go, oh my God, I'm so sorry.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I had the stroke is because I found out how much it costs people to step into a Honda Odyssey. Let me show you some Dodge Caravans.
Okay.
It was brilliant. He took it and he worked it, and I forgot all about this guy. And I think his name was Joe, but I cannot remember his last name because I know some of his old interviews with presidents. He did an interview with Linda Lovelace, the deep throat
Yep.
person. That was his big claim to fame too. He interviewed Linda Lovelace for something. I don't remember why. And it was broadcast. And it's out there on YouTube somewhere. I cannot find this. I can't remember this guy's name for anything. But anyway, I guess I've been thinking about that whole, if you argue for your limitations, you get to keep them. Joe worked it. Joe worked what he had. And I forgot all about him. I mean, until just the other day, it like popped in my head. Oh, car business. But yeah, a lot of people on their way up and a lot of people on their way down. And some people just doing what they do. I learned about finance. I learned about just people in general. I learned a lot about repetitive speech. A lot of things, all kinds of stuff that's not related to automobiles that I learned in the car business.
Mm-hmm.
But it's one of those professions, just like DJing, that's just, it's like attorneys, used car salesmen. And there are used car salesmen out there who are awful. They're terrible people. I work with them. They would do anything. They would stab their grandma in the back for an extra buck. There are people out there like that. They exist. They're real. But I don't believe that's the majority of people in the car business. Just like I don't believe that the guy who says, ladies and gentlemen, at this time, here's a great song by Elvis Presley, and then plays, does that all night long. I don't think that's the norm. But I think that perhaps that's where public perception's at. The one bad experience has just tainted people's perception of us, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I went off on a really long tangent on that, and I apologize.
No, but that you had some interesting tidbits in that.
Little points, yeah.
Little points, yeah. What the
ramblings of a brain damaged DJ.
It's just interesting as we look back through movies specifically, but even television, and the idea of the stereotypes of the car salesman. And again, we'll stick with that one and the things they will do. I mean, I was even watching a an episode of I think it was at the middle or one of the newer channel, that was shot a couple, and there was a car salesman scene, and it was the kind of shady, crooked car salesman. They're still playing that role up, and I look at that and I'm thinking, okay, so there's the image issue is obviously still there or still being played up. There just wasn't, the idea of a DJ at maybe they haven't had many DJs in popular pop culture in the movies or something to that effect. But I really, my first experience of hearing about a DJ in a movie was going all the way back to American Graffiti.
Yeah.
And I don't remember anything in American Graffiti with Wolfman Jack. I mean, it was almost to the point of almost treating like a godlike stature to a point.
Uncle Bob.
But
That's Ken Heath's Uncle Bob.
oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yes. Interestingly enough, his father's brother.
Huh. There we.
Or no, it's relation on his mother's side, because I've spoken with his mother about this in his mother's living room, and yeah, there are pictures of Ken with Uncle Bob when he was young. He would show up in this big black Cadillac and just come over and hang out. But no, there's a scene in American Graffiti where Richard Dreyfuss goes to the radio station, and the refrigerator's out. And he's like, "Hey man, do you want a popsicle? They're all melting." He's like, "No, I'm here to speak to the Wolfman." He's like, "Oh, the Wolfman's not here. It's a recording. It's a syndicated thing. He's not here. You want a popsicle?" And he's like, "No." Talks to him for a while, tries to get a request out, and convinces Richard Dreyfuss that he's not Wolfman Jack.
Mm-hmm.
But then, as he's leaving, he looks in the window and he sees him on the mic. "All right, this was," he's like, he was lying to me, But anyway, so he was in the movie. But yeah, he was this, yeah.
Yeah, precisely. And granted, that was radio compared to doing the mobile things, but you just didn't have that that show that made everyone look like a creepy, bad person. It's just
I think anybody who's in wedding entertainment. I mean, you think about movies like The Wedding Singer. So Adam Sandler was perfectly happy with being a wedding singer, but even in the 80s, the perception of the wedding singer from a lot of other people was looked down on. But he was perfectly happy with being a wedding singer.
Yeah.
He thought it was cool until he was told it wasn't.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
So yeah, it's an odd business. It really is. It's I don't know. Anybody can call themselves a DJ, and believe me, anybody will call themselves a DJ. There are people out there who have been honing their craft for years and deserve a lot of credit and a lot of recognition for what they do. And there are guys who just decided to go out and make a quick buck and do it too. So,
and that definitely could be one of the problems. Is we go back to the show we did about UK, some of the issues that the UK DJs are having, and
absolutely.
that concept that basically they get a controller, maybe, they have Winamp and downloaded songs, and they're a DJ, and that is so prevalent. And granted, that's prevalent in our area also, but not, I don't think, not to the extent per capita as you have there. It's tough. It's a tough road, because now those are DJs, and as we've mentioned earlier, a person like Jim Cerrone, who has spent the amount of time to hone his craft and his speaking skills and his music knowledge. I mean, there's not many people out there that have the level of music knowledge and such that he does, because he's not only has a DJ music knowledge, but he's coming from a radio station where he was a program manager and knew this stuff way at a different level than most of us. So you've got so many different people, and then you have Jason Jani that we've seen perform at Mobile Beat the last few years, and what he does compared to, and then of course we see the people on stage at DJ Expo up there. Bismarck is up doing his whatever that was. We're not exactly sure.
I missed that one.
Yeah.
And I guess I didn't miss anything.
Yeah, you didn't miss anything. That's the kind of the point of that. There were some performers that were up there and did a really great job, and there were some up there that fit that bad DJ stereotype in so many ways. It's like, yeah. So
I do use it to my advantage, though, as far as when you talk about the public perception of DJ, because it allows me to underpromise and overdeliver. Which is something I learned in the car business, a phrase I learned in the car business. Underpromise and overdeliver. If you promise somebody the world and you don't give them anything at all, they're going to be disappointed. If if you promise them nothing and you give them a few extra things, they're gonna be blown away by that. Oh, you didn't have to do that. Yeah, but I decided I wanted to do it for you. Opposed to, I'm going to get your car cleaned up. I'm going to get it painted. I'm going to get this done. I'm going to get the miles rolled back, put a new engine in it. You didn't know that, then you're a jerk. But if you don't say anything and you go ahead and get it washed for them, fill up the tank, they think you're a hero. So under promise and over deliver. I'm able to do that because of that stigma and talk to people. Because, when I get calls or even emails or whatever, inquiries for my business, I don't know about you, John, but people are real cautious. They're asking me, well, can I see you is one of the big
Oh,
questions.
yeah.
And, well, do you have lights? And I mean, they're treading real lightly. Unfortunately, they don't just assume that I'm a professional who has the tools needed to do this thing. We eventually get there. And I,
But
tell
they're,
them what I have. And,
oh yeah, they're treading lightly because they don't want to insult you, but to a point.
but they're cautious because
Yeah.
they've seen bad.
They've seen bad. They've heard of it existing out there because most of them don't have experience in hiring. So it's like, okay, this person I'm calling or I'm emailing, are they one of them or are they one of those?
When I started doing the YouTube videos too, I thought to myself, because no one was doing mobile DJ stuff. They were all doing mixing, and that was like the romantic thing to do, and they're still doing it to this day. My mix, my turntables, my this, my that. I'm like, screw that. I'm going to get up here and just be, hey, I'm a mobile DJ, and I'm making no apologies for it. And this is who I am. This is what I do. And we don't all wear polyester tuxedos, We're not all that guy. And some of us are me. I'm a slob. I'm a chain-smoking slob living in this basement. But I really like music, and I'm not ashamed of what I do.
Mm-hmm.
It was fun. It was fun to do that, to play that character. It still is. You don't have to be. It's like parenting. You don't have to be your dad to be a dad. Not that there's anything wrong with my father, but I didn't have to become my father to be a father. That was the only point of reference to fatherhood I had.
Yeah.
But I'm not my dad. I am in some ways, but I'm me for sure. Same thing with DJs. I've told this story before. When I was in my late teens and early 20s, I loved doing what I did, but I was afraid of 30 because everyone I knew who was 30 looked ridiculous on stage. They didn't belong there. They were overweight. They didn't dress right. They didn't understand music. They had stupid haircuts. Like, I'm not going to be that guy at 30. What am I going to do when I'm 30 years old? I can't make this a career. There's no way. Because this is the end, and I don't want it to be that. I don't want to become that guy. I thought that was going to happen. And here I am. I'm 46. 16 years past that, what I had conceived as the expiration date on this gig, and I'm still going and making no apologies for it. No one's looking at me like I'm a tool. Well, okay, fine. So a few of you are. I'm sure Howie is. And Robin, probably. But other than that.
But excluding those two,
people, yeah, I don't know. It's a weird gig in that regard. Cool Hand asked a quick question here. I'll just answer it real fast. Ask if I'm booking my own or I'm still through a service. I do take some subcontract stuff, but most of my stuff now is my own stuff. I made that change. I've been gradually making that change over the last 2 years. I dread the agency stuff, but I do it because it never goes smoothly. My stuff goes smoothly. My stuff, it's just an overall better product, I think, because I'm able to spend more time with the clients and things. Where I got more control over things so they don't screw up. And the control thing isn't an ego thing. The control thing is just a quality control thing, I guess. I don't have that so much with these agency gigs. They just kind of get thrown at you.
Yeah.
And you're a soldier and you go out there and you make it happen. But it's a lot less stress to do your own.
Yeah, for sure. That way.
It should be the other way around, but it's not.
You've had the communication. You've been able to build a little bit of a relationship and set expectations and such. I can definitely.
Again, overpromise or underpromise, overdeliver, opposed to the overpromise and underdeliver, which often happens when it's an agency gig, because who knows what these agents said to people?
Yes, to get the booking.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, of course he does balloon animals. I got into this situation a while back where it was the gig I did with Art, where it was a Mexican family, but was also Anglo American too. And Blanca and I have done the thing where we've gone out to events, and she's taken requests in Spanish, primarily the tropical crowd, whatever. And they like to see her up there. It makes the Latinos feel like they're being represented. Even if she's just standing there dancing to the music, they don't care. I'm playing the music. She's taking requests in Spanish. I think that's cool. But the agency sold it as, oh yeah, it's a husband and wife bilingual DJ,
Mhm.
and they do announcements in Spanish. You know how many times Blanca's been on the microphone? Never.
Well,
You know how many times Blanca will ever be on the microphone? She'll never be on the
never.
microphone. She'll never be on the. I don't care how many Bacardi and Cokes you give her, she's never getting on the mic. She will not do it. But they sold it like that, and they expected that.
Mm.
I could have fielded this off very easily. I could have just said, to that particular client, I could have just said, hey, my wife, she speaks Spanish. She's not a DJ. She's not an MC, but she's there. She can take requests. She can translate things for me. That's where I have a problem. It's a language barrier thing, but she can, and just the fact that she's there again makes them feel good. But they promised something we didn't do.
Yes.
So it was an overpromise and underdeliver unless I stepped up and brought in a guy, which I did. I brought in Art, which was going above and beyond. It all worked out, but thanks, agency. So to answer your question, I'm trying to do my own stuff and trying to do as little agency stuff as possible.
Thinking back in the early days of hiring DJs throughout the central part of the state, there were two agencies that actually were doing a lot of hiring. There was a radio station that that did a lot of the booking out of DJs, and then there were two agencies in our St. Cloud area that were booking DJs, and they were kind of multi-system, but they would also do other things. And thinking back, I can see where those entities, and that's why it was so easy for us when we started, is because we could come in there. We came in and basically were selling a better quality show, being that we were taking requests and we were playing the music that the guests wanted to hear. We weren't stuck with the same set of whatever songs, and it was just doing some simple, incredibly, looking back today, mindless things. But we were able to come into the market because there was such a bad image and bad situation created by some of these who were just there to book a $150 event. They would send a warm body out to play music off cassette tapes or 45s, whichever happened to be the method of the day. So maybe it was a lot of those early days of DJ that they were just so bad that image just came through the basically the world, but certainly through the across country, from people experiencing that, like saying, "Really, I'm going to pay for that?" And I suppose you think about it, because the average person couldn't do their own thing at that time for playing music. We were able to run. Bad DJs were able to continue for a long, long time because they were the only ones who owned that music collection.
Right. It was a music collection, and not only that, we found here that one of the big things that got you hired at a multi-op back in the old days was if you owned a pickup truck with a cap on it.
Yes. Yep. With the topper. Yes.
You own that, you're hired.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter who you are. You don't even have to talk. You don't even have to know how to talk. You don't even have to use words.
Yeah.
As long as you can haul this stuff around, we'll send somebody with you who can do all the talking.
Oh, there were. I'm not overly excited to say it, but there were shows that we booked in the early '90s, and we sent people out just to play music, and they're like, I don't want to speak on a microphone, so I can't DJ. It's like, you won't need to speak on a microphone.
Don't worry about it.
Just don't worry about it. You just go and play music like it's a party. You've been with me a half a dozen shows.
Right.
Just do what you've seen me do. Here's a list of the songs. Just go and play down that list if you have to.
Yeah. That's all it took. But, really, when you think about it, for us anyway, it was such low dollar stuff. I mean, it wasn't a lot of liability involved. I mean, today, when you're talking about, I know your average event's like $2,500. I mean, that's a lot of dough to drop for somebody to not do the job. If it was only a few $100s, who cares?
Hey, exactly. I've had that conversation any number of times when I've had the sales consultation. We're talking, and it's like people are like, John, we see that you're bringing more to the table, but it's really tough to justify this when you've got someone who's literally 10 times less than you are.
Right.
And they're like, what are some of the big differences? Basically, trying to, and I know it sounds like they're trying to they're cheaping out on me, but really in many cases, and we're going to do a little sales thing here, is that many times when they're asking questions like that, they're not trying to cheapen your product, or they're not trying to lessen. They're really looking for points, some conversation points, to basically some talking points that you can give them, so that when they're telling their friends and say, I hired John, and John costs a little bit of money. He's about $2,500, and here's why. Right. Here's why. They're sitting across the table from me, and we've developed a relationship, and they're feeling comfortable with me, and they're like, you know what, this just feels right. And most of the shows that I book is because they feel that this feels right. Great. Yeah. Now they need the talking points to give to the logic side. They've used the emotional side to book me. And I'm sure, Brian, you've had the same thing where you're sitting across the table and they're like, I like this guy. I just like the way he thinks, and I like the way he thinks about music and what he was going to bring to the table. That's the gut. That's the emotional side. Now they need the talking points. Well, the talking points is that, in essence, and I remember which we was talking about different things, and I was talking about my passion to help, and the groom says, so basically you're telling me you're going to bleed for me if you have to make sure my wedding's perfect. Yeah, I guess you could say I would.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
my job.
That's what I'm here for, and I will bleed, but no one will know it.
The last thing I need is a crappy Yelp review from you,
Yeah, that was way before Yelp was a thing, which is the idea that I don't, I'm not going to, my reputation to perform and do what I do, if I don't have that, I'm now back and I'm doing $300 weddings, and that's not acceptable. So I have to maintain that. And that's, I've had people ask over the years, well, why don't you just scale back and, cut a lot of the things out that you do, and you really could go back and you could do a really smaller events. Yeah, I could do that, but I've also established what I can do and what I can bring to an event. And if you start, taking too much out, I mean, it's like, okay, I'm going to go from using my ability to mix music, and I'm going to go and just, use an iPad and just push play and let a song end and then push play in the next one. You start taking too much away, and it takes away the experience, and the experience that they get from, as we've talked, the soundtrack of your day, that experience that we're going to bring to the table is what they're paying for. They're not paying for music per se. They're paying for the experience we can create with the music, and the experience we can create with the microphone.
I tell them they're paying for peace of mind.
This
is, I mean, I don't really have many people bulk up prices anymore. Mm-hmm. Because by the time they get to me, they've been around. They've talked to the idiot. They've talked to the $4,000 guy who just isn't working, around here anyway. And then they talk to me, and they don't really get a lot of sticker shock because I break it down for them pretty fair. But yeah, basically they're paying for peace of mind with me. I'm going to show up. I kind of can help you out as far as putting this together. I'm not just going to come and play music. This isn't my only duty. In fact, DJing is the easiest thing that I do. I love doing it. I know how to do it. You put me in front of a crowd with some music and some speakers, and I can do that. You give me the crappiest music you can think of, but I can still kind of try to make it work, putting it in order that makes sense. But getting it through dinner is hard. Why? Well, I got amateurs on the microphone. I got dinner needs to be served at a certain time. I got speeches that are going too long. I got a cake that needs to be cut. I got catering issues. I got to make this happen. And I know good formulas that can make this happen for you. And I'm happy to help you with it.
And you have to do all of these things and make it look smooth and relaxed and have that flow.
Nobody's going to know that I was involved in this.
Yep.
No one's going to know that I put this together for you. But they will know if it screws up. So I'm going to help you avoid that. You can be the hero. You can tell everybody you organize this. I don't care. Doesn't matter to me. But I'll put it together for you. They don't have to know I did it. And they don't. Nobody knows. Mm-hmm. I mean, nobody knows or cares how something works until it doesn't.
And that's actually a real kind of a part that just irks me a little bit is that when you and I are doing our job and we do it well, we're doing it behind the scenes. No one really knows except maybe the couple. And if the couple will, talk to friends, oh my gosh, but the whole word of mouth thing, here's where we kind of shoot ourselves in a foot. And not that I'm saying I would do it any differently, but when we're not up there and basically saying, oh, I've got everyone and we're going to do all these things and being that big grandioso microphone, directing traffic type of person, we're working in the shadows to a point. We're like the director of the movie. Most of the time the director, you're like, who was directing? Oh, it was a great movie. I don't remember who directed it.
Right.
We're doing that, and they're doing their things, and it's over, and people are like, wow, Sarah and Johnny, you had a great wedding. You guys must have put a lot of work into that. Wow, it was so great. Any DJ probably could do that because Sarah and Johnny were the ones who put it all together. Yeah, well, no. Sarah and Johnny and I planned it, but when it came to executing it, there's only a few people who can execute that event that smoothly with all of the spinning plates. And
kind of like being Santa Claus.
It is. Santa Claus, except you've got a venue manager who's in a really pissy mood.
The venue knows what happened. The venue knows how the hell did this work like this.
Yeah, precisely.
They want to talk to you. The photographer wants to talk to you. I mean, maybe, if they've got any experience.
Yeah, if they're still around.
It's like you thought about them, and I do. I think about my vendors. The catering catering always wants my card because they come to me almost in a panic. Listen, we got to serve at this time. We got to do this. I got you.
Yep.
What do you mean? I'm like, look, I got it all written down here. You got nothing to worry about. I got you.
I'll have them where you want.
You're putting plates down at 7:00, not 6:59, not 6:01 or 7:01. 7:00. You're putting your first plate down. Really? Yeah, no problem. And they love it. Well, what about clearing? Oh, I got you. Don't worry about it. I got you, and they'll love it because I get it. I've seen enough of this, and these are the kind of things that I can share with clients. Look, I can work with catering. I don't even have to talk to them. I can work with them. I mean, you should, but I don't have to. All you got to do is tell me what time they're serving. That's all you got to tell me, and I'll work around that. I sit down or buffet. If it's buffet, how many courses? Or sit down, how many courses?
Yep.
How many people are getting served? Great. I got you. We can make this happen. We don't have problems with catering. We don't have problems with photographers. We don't have problems with bar. Oh, we need to get everybody seated to do grand entrance, and they're not sitting down. What do we do if something like this happens at our wedding? I'll tell you exactly what you do. You close the bar. What do you mean? Yeah, close the bar for 10 minutes is all you got to do.
Yep.
If you close the bar, they can't serve anybody else at 6:55. They're going to be seated at 7:00 because the bar's closed. Serve no alcohol starting from 6:55 until 7:10. Big deal. You close the bar for 15 minutes. It's going to get everybody seated.
Yes. Yep. Definitely helps.
Wow. How did you know how to do that? Because I've seen enough of this stuff.
We've done it once
That's
before.
why I make the big bucks. No, but it's the experience, and putting this together and making it happen for them. Throwing suggestions out there. And I always tell them, look, I am not the boss here. You're the boss. I'm the coach. You do whatever you want to do. All I'm going to do is share my experiences with you and share with you what I think might work best. But if you have a different idea, we're going to go with your idea. No problem. You're the boss. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm only here to help. If you want something else, let's work together. Let's see if we can make it work out for you. If you want my opinion, I'll give it. If you don't, I'll keep my mouth shut.
Yep.
Whatever you want. And I don't mind doing that for $2,000. I mind doing that for $650, $700, $850. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, for sure. No, there's definitely a level of when you're the value of what you're bringing to the table, and to a point sometimes when you have to basically stand back and say, you know what, this is your day. We're going to do it your way, and we're going to make the best of it, and no one's going to know that I completely didn't like this idea. I'm going to do it. I'm going to sell it. And there have been times where that their idea was actually because of their family and relationships and such. I mean, when one particular one I had last summer was they always do this. The guys dress up as women and they come running out about midway through the dance, and we want to do that. And then they go out and they pole basically dance the groom. They use him as a pole dance and they do their thing. It's like, really? Yeah, this is it's so funny and it'll be so great. And it's like, You two were just telling me you're very uncomfortable being in front of the guests and you don't want to kiss in public and you don't want to, but this is okay? Oh, it'll be great. Okay, I'm going to we'll do it. And turned out that it went over incredibly well. And they were more animated during that little 5-minute sequence than they were the whole day.
Yeah.
But if I would have done with my way, we wouldn't have done it because it was.
You never know. Never know. I've when it comes to weird stuff like that, I tend to, oh, cool. Okay, tell me how it goes.
Yep.
What can I do to help? Fine. Because I don't get it either. And usually the weirdo stuff does work out pretty well for some.
And
odd
it
reason.
it was my biggest hang up with it is it's a family event. And there are kids around, and they're going to come out there. And the way they were talking about what had happened in the past with some of these pole dancing with the groom kind of things, where it's like, oh, what? They did what? So it was like, I was not comfortable with it, but I'm Mr.
I think it's odd too. I think it's uncomfortable just since we're on. I know we're supposed to be talking about something else, but when our focus is money, I don't know how comfortable the client is with that. If our focus is on experience, and then once we find out everything they want, the wins, hows, whys, all this stuff, then we put a price tag on it. I think that's different. That's just what it's going to cost you to do this.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of dudes, and I know they are because I've met them, are so hot for the dough. The dough excites them. The money excites them. They're looking at, I think I can get this out of this client. And that's where the excitement is. The client is not excited about this. The client is not excited about paying me anything. So I'm not excited about that part when it comes to the money part. And I don't put a lot of emphasis on it. If it requires some explanation, fine. But yeah, the exciting thing for me is just, who they are and put it together for them. It's kind of like if you've been to the hospital,
Yep.
right?
Oh, yes.
When you go to the hospital, you really think they give a shit about you? They're worried about your insurance.
Yeah.
It's the first thing they ask you about. The only time they didn't do that is when I was stroking out. I have no idea what happened, but I went straight into ER and they started working on me right away. But if you go in for anything else, before they'll even see you, if your eyeball's hanging out of your head, they're going to ask you about your insurance information because they want to get paid.
Mm-hmm.
That's their thing. They're not excited about fixing you. They're excited about getting paid for fixing you. So I try to keep I don't get excited about the dough.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't. I need to make enough where it's worth my while, where I'm not wasting my time, because then I get attitude about it. I don't need to get rich off of anybody either, but I need to be paid fairly for what I do.
Yeah.
Let's throw that out there.
Just following the chat and such.
Well, while you're following the chat, let me just share this with you.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing that I've been thinking about, and my wedding season isn't over, by the way. In fact, my Octobers are busy.
Nice.
Octobers are always busy for me, for some reason. All the way up to Halloween, I got stuff going on. What I start thinking about right now, though, because I got a little bit of a lull, I start thinking about, what did I miss this outdoor wedding season? My outdoor stuff's pretty much over with.
Certainly, yeah.
So what did I miss? What didn't happen? What didn't I do that I wanted to do? What product haven't I picked up that I should be picking up that's going to make my life easier? I've been thinking a lot about the battery-powered ceremony system.
Yeah.
And I haven't really seen the right one yet that works for me anyway. Those are the kind of things that I'm thinking about right now. What's going to make my job easier next year, based on what I just did? What did I struggle with? And what could have been less of a struggle if I would have just had the right product? That's what I do in my downtime.
It's interesting that has been your thought recently. Is after the ceremony, doing the ceremonies this fall, it's like, I need to change my microphone system, because I've been using the ULX from Shure, and I thought, well, these mics with the whole 600 megahertz thing coming on, that Ben has talked about numerous times, it's like, oh, I'm sure that my mics are old and I'm going to have to toss them away and get da. Well, it turns out that they're not. They're they're good frequency, so I'm good with that. So now it's like, okay, I should get these mounted in a nice rack. I've never done that before because, there's times where Lori would go out and need a couple of mics and we'd break them up.
Yeah.
It's like I could put them all on a rack and then get those fins Ben talks about, and I could have this great thing. And I was thinking about all this, and it's going to be an investment to get all these extra pieces to put this together. And then Lori reminded me, she's like, okay, so you did how many wedding ceremonies this summer? It's like, well, I did 5 ceremonies, and which, okay, great. That would cover the cost of it. But how many of them did you actually use your wireless microphones? Well, one I could. It was a beautiful day still. It was, and one of them, it was too windy, so we couldn't use the lapel. We had to use a handheld, which wasn't a big deal. One, we had to go wired because we were too close to town, and we were picking up weird things over that. And then another one, we had our wireless and everything. We were all set up, and we had everybody wired. And then we found out that when the videographers went and turned their microphones on, just as it was on the same frequencies, and it took out both my two belt pack. Didn't take out my handheld. So it's like, yeah, I mean, really, you look at it. I've really only used my full wireless system where I would need everything like twice, if that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting. You're thinking the ceremony stuff, because that's.
Well, I'm thinking more like, because there's a lot of remote stuff here. This is like the big thing, and people are experiencing this in other parts of the country too. The barn weddings become this thing.
They have.
It's not just here; it's Chicago too, and they're going upscale with it. And they don't want to get married in the barn. They want to get married like in the back 40.
Yep. In the hayfield.
Tough to get to.
Yes.
Maybe you have power. Maybe you don't. So, okay, fine. We have battery-powered speakers. That's amazing. Where are the battery-powered wireless microphone receivers?
Yep. Howie.
Yeah. Well, I got something here, and I haven't really played with it much yet, but it is
Howie could
this
make
little
one.
DC block I got.
Sure.
This will power a wireless mic receiver. I haven't shown anybody this yet. I got this from Colorado Sound and Light.
Oh.
Jen Bexter turned me on to it. This will power like a wireless microphone receiver for like 18 hours. I mean, because they take nothing. This little bitty box will do that. Anything DC, you got it. Go rack, whatever, it'll power it. So this is a partial solution to the stuff I've been thinking about.
Mm-hmm.
I've been working on. I want a really good battery-powered speaker, and if I can get an easy, I've got wireless mics that'll work, but yeah, it'd be nice to dedicate one. It would be nice to, like you say, you rack stuff up, and then okay, well, I need it for this system, I need it for that system.
Yeah,
it would be nice to have a dedicated microphone for ceremony, dedicated wireless microphone, and I only use a handheld because I found lapels are problematic with wind.
Oh yeah,
once you get wind, it's over. Handhelds are much more forgiving. So what I do is I tell them, look, I can charge you $1,500 for your ceremony. I can bring in female mic techs to wire up your bridesmaids and your bride and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And we can monitor all that stuff, and it's going to cost you big bucks. Or alternately, I can put a stick up there with a good wireless microphone on it, and most people are going to hear you.
Yeah.
And they go with it, and I've never had a problem with that. Not once. In fact, most of the officiants prefer that to a lapel. I don't know why, but they do. They like the prop. And they can easily hand this over to anyone who's reading. We don't have to have multiple microphones. It gets a lot less confusing. I don't know. So that's what I do. If I had a solid, just a handheld wireless, I could totally do my ceremonies, no problem. Because like I say, anything outdoors is just the wind on. I don't even own a lapel microphone anymore.
Mm-hmm.
The lavalier microphones, they're gone. I don't even have them here anymore. They're just useless to me.
And I had gotten to that point where at one time I had 4 handhelds and 4 belt packs for my 4 receivers, so I could use one or the other with each receiver. Well, over time, a couple of belt packs had died for whatever reason, and it's like, I just wasn't using them anymore because I had the lav mic that came with them, and I had asked different microphone manufacturers, people who are familiar with Shure, and it's like, okay, Shure's got the one that came with it, and then they have the one, this $200 one. Is it worth spending that extra money? And they're always, no, it's the labs. Lab is a lab, and you're not going to really get much more out of it. Okay, so I never did it. Well, for some reason, actually, it was on Jimmy's suggestion. When Lori and I are doing our weekly little news show here for the local newspaper, we're doing the video, and we were going to do a set, and I wanted to have a microphone that's more not like this in the side of my face. So we started looking, and Jimmy recommended going and getting a really good quality lav because that's what they use for for studio production. So I bit the bullet and bought a $200 lav. Just the wire lav is $200. Oh my gosh, those are like night and day difference.
Yeah.
You listen to the $50 one from Shure and the $200 one, and I'm sure that this is the same way in Sennheiser and all of the different companies. There is such an I felt to a point I was angry because I've talked to at least 5 different business owners that sell microphones, and it's like, is there a big difference? And well, there's a little difference. It just costs a lot more money, and how much can you use it? Well, I had that lav at one of that particular wedding that the videographer's microphones cut me out. I had the officiant with that lav on him, and he sounded like he was like talking through a Shure 87, the Beta 87. It was like, oh my gosh, does he have my handheld or is he on the lab? It sounded that good, and wind wasn't bad at all. He tried to turn a little bit because if he turned right, you'd hear it. So he just turned his shoulder.
Right.
It's beautiful. It's like, oh my gosh, if I'd known this, I would have bought it 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So there is a difference, but the problem is the wind. Once again, even though it was an expensive lav, it still picked up the wind much more than the handheld did. The handheld, I had the foam on it.
Just more forgiving.
Yeah, much more forgiving.
I don't know. That's just how I do it because I don't have anybody real excited about wanting to pay me $1,200-$1,500 for ceremony.
No, not so much.
You know, I know people out there do it. Jim Cerrone, I think, told me, yeah, his ceremony is like stupid expensive. I don't know what it is, but he runs like all these mics and has all these techs, and it's that way. It's broadcast quality.
Yeah, exactly. They're doing it at a different level, and I don't have many of my clients that are wanting that. I mean, what I'm thinking we're going to see in the next year or so is I don't know about the Sam's Club and Costco in your area, specifically Sam's Club right now, is there were 5 different audio speakers in Sam's Club that could be used for a level of either full DJ or just a ceremony. I mean, I've got
kind of looking at them. I know there was a Monster.
Yeah.
There were a couple. I've seen them.
Yeah, I actually picked up the Monster. The Sam's had a thing, and I grabbed 2 of them because what I liked about it is they're Bluetooth, and one links to the other. So you can Bluetooth to one, and it links to the other. It's like, this is cool because then we can use them out in the back. So I had that, and we were playing with it. And it's like, I could see people buying this and using it for a ceremony. Plug a microphone in, and why do I need to have a DJ there when I can have this? Or
here's the problem I see with that. And this is the problem that I've talked about before with different types of consumer products. Once we start using things that people are familiar with in the audience, the magic starts to go away. You see what I'm saying? It's kind of going back to the old iPad thing. If we're using an iPad to do all these mixes and everybody sees it, if I have an iPad, I could do this. What do I need to hire this guy for? That's the problem I see with using familiar consumer electronics.
I would definitely agree, and that's why as I'm looking at that and I'm seeing these, I believe the Ion speakers is what they had, that 15-inch 2-way cabinet, and they actually had this particular time. Whoever set them up must have EQ'd them a little bit because they actually sounded pretty good as they're blaring as you're walking by. It's like, okay, so now Sam's has those. How many are going to buy that? And maybe a DJ will buy it, but maybe that'll be like, well, why should we pay a DJ?
It doesn't matter if they buy it or not. They saw it at Sam's.
Yeah.
Oh, I know what that is. I know how much this costs.
And then how much? Oh, I just bought your sound system 3. No, my sound system is an ETX system. Well, a speaker's a speaker, isn't it? Well, no.
Right.
My speaker is about 12 times to 15 times the cost of that particular speaker that you were referring to.
It's the biggest problem I see with that. I mean, because I agree the technology is there. It's there all day, but nobody has. I did a video on this recently. I was just saying, nobody's really made the right system for me yet. They've come close, but not quite. And Howie was talking about some of the limitations that some of these batteries have as far as wattage goes.
Yeah.
What kind of drivers they can use. You know what? That's science fiction to me. I don't understand it, and I'm not trying to be. I want to be ignorant to it. I do.
I don't want to waste.
I don't need to know everything about everything. I just don't. need to work.
Mm-hmm.
If you're gonna twist my arm and force me to learn something, fine. But I'd much rather you just figure it out for me and hand it to me and say, "Here, this is gonna work for you."
Exactly. Yeah.
But that's me. And that's not on everything, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Some things I need to know how they work. Some things I just turnkey is wonderful. But
So,
I do know the technology is there because it's happening. They're building it into these things. So I think what we need as DJs is that wireless connectivity between two speakers. That's
that is really cool
choice.
technology. I mean, we saw that at NAMM, where they were introducing it in 2016. I think is when the first time we saw it a little bit. 2017, we saw it from a couple of different speaker manufacturers, and I think we're going to see it even more this year, where you're connecting to one and it's sending audio to one or the other, and
Yeah.
that's a fabulous capability, because as my son, he takes those speakers out and he mows lawn with an electric lawnmower, so the lawnmower's quiet. He puts
Yeah.
one of those, spreads those out, and he can go like 50 feet wide, and he cranks it up, and he's listening to the music as he's going back and forth, and he's having a great
Yeah.
time with it. And they're battery operated. He wheels them out. He's a happy boy,
Right.
and he's not taking my
something pole mounted is nice too.
Yeah.
Something built to mount on a pole is good because you need to get him in the air. So, but yeah, I don't know. This is just some thoughts that I have on it. But yeah, nobody's nailed it yet. I mean, American Audio came out with the ELS Go APT. Okay, fine. I understand it's a $200 speaker. I understand there was a price point that was trying to be hit with that. But man, it came close. It came close. If that had been a $400 speaker with what I needed in it, done and done. And I had even suggested to one of the developers at American Audio, hey, forget the wireless microphone. Don't do that. Don't force your microphone on anybody, because a microphone is a very personal choice.
It really is, yes.
So don't do that. However, it would be really cool if you had some kind of DC out built into the speaker where you could power your own wireless microphone receiver. So you could have the best of both.
Yes.
Just so the speaker sounds good, just so it's Bluetooth with your computer in or your phone or whatever, maybe a built-in MP3 player, all the stuff that you have, but just give us some more audio controls, better sound quality, and a DC out. It takes no power to do this. Again, this does it.
Yeah.
But if you could clean it up where I didn't have to have this box sitting anywhere, it'd be nice. Not that I care. But if I don't, I got about half of the DJs out there with ADD yelling at me because it's not clean enough. It gives me anxiety because I got to post this stuff. So, stop doing that, guys. Not everybody feels the same way you do about your setups as far as every little wire, because, this is DJ stuff. And B, yeah, I kind of want it to look clean anyway. So. But yeah, it's there. But no one's built it. Everyone's come close. No one's gotten there. And I've heard people tell me about they absolutely love this system or that system. And I've looked at them. And I'm not impressed.
Yeah.
I'm not. Impress me. Wow me.
Well, let's see. How many months do we have? We've got 4 months, and we'll be back at NAMM and continuing our search.
I really want to find it. And I am relatively brand loyal when it comes to that kind of stuff. But I'm sorry, I'll be seeing other people if somebody else makes what I need, because I just need this thing.
It isn't you, it's me.
It's not you, it's me. Exactly.
Oh, good stuff. Well, again, we're going to wrap things up here. It's about 10 o'clock Central, time for us to continue on our way for the evening. Thank you for being with us. If you've got any thoughts or questions, please get in touch with Brian or myself, and we can do that. Brian, I want to throw this out for next week. I was thinking about we should do a wedding next week, where we basically will go and we'll put some information together as a bride would give us the information, and then we'll both tackle it, how we would tackle the different aspects of the wedding day.
So how about you put together your stuff for me, and I put together stuff for you?
Sounds like a plan. Sounds like a plan.
How about that?
We'll touch base to make sure we have the different wedding activities and such, and we'll have.
It doesn't matter. Be prepared, man.
Are we going to see it
touch base
before
on
the
nothing.
show, or are we just going to right when the show starts? Then we'll swap.
There's no prep on this, man. Come on, we're professionals.
We're gonna go.
It's like, yeah, man, this is like being on Wheel of Fortune, me telling you what the words are going to be.
Oh,
You know, is there a vowel? Yeah, of course it's a U. No, we're professionals. This is what we do.
okay. We're going to.
How are we going to handle it?
So next week's show will be basically we're going to pretend that we are working for an agency, and we walk in, and right on the table is our planning form, and off we go.
I like it.
That's gonna be fun. So that'll
I
be
don't
next.
use a planning form, by the way.
Well, we'll have
So you
fun.
know.
We'll have our notes. We'll call it that. So that'll be next Tuesday night at our regular time, 9:00 Central, 10:00 Eastern. Thank you guys for being with us. Have yourself a wonderful night, and we'll catch you next week. Bye bye. It didn't switch, and it didn't switch yet.
What's that mean?